Hello and welcome to Be Indie Now, a podcast about independent game development. I'm your host, Tobiah Marks, and with me today is Team Tripleslash, who make the awesome game Magnetic by Nature. Hi, guys.
Hey, how's it going?
Hello.
Why don't you introduce yourselves?
All right, my name is Kyle Chittenden. I am the team lead and character animator for Magnetic by Nature.
I'm Brendan Wanless. I'm one of the engineers. I'm the lead level designer, and also I work on a lot of the special effects.
My name is Paige Ashlin. I'm another programmer, and I've also done a lot of the sort of business side of the company.
My name's David Hurst, and I've done a lot of the audio engineering and gameplay engineering on the project.
Excellent. So, first question I want to ask you guys is, why do you make games? It's kind of a vague question, but I'm interested. What's your answers?
Okay, so I've been asked that a lot, and it's always the same answer. When I was 14 years old, I played an amazing game called Metal Gear Solid 2, and that game just really took it away from me with their 30-minute cutscenes, just unbelievable animations. And from that moment on, I actually wanted to be an editor in the film series, in the film side. And I studied film all throughout high school, and halfway through college, I was taking a class on animation, and that class just blew me away. Ever since then, I have loved animation, and I decided right then and there, like, I'm going to do animation for games. I've always loved games, and now I love animation. Why not combine them both?
Yeah, they're a good fit.
Yeah, exactly. And from then on, I've just always been kind of thrilled to make games, and honestly, the one thing that keeps on pushing it even more is just to see the fans' reactions to our products, and just to see the smiles on their faces is just amazing. So that's why I do it.
Yeah, this is Brendan here. Kind of what Kyle was saying there at the end is a lot of why I like to make games. I started off back making StarCraft 1 maps and mods and things, and when people would play that online and all over the world, it was a really rewarding experience. So ever since then, I've looked for ways to get into game development. I studied computer science in school and graduated from the University of Utah, and that's where I'm at right now. So it's just super rewarding and enjoyable to see people playing something that you created and enjoy it with them. So that's why I do it.
So this is Paige talking. I've been interested in games programming for a really long time. Like a lot of people, games are what got me interested in programming. But I didn't have game development as a plan when I went to college. It was actually not until I went to GDC with the team that I 100% committed and said, yes, this is what I want to do for a career. And it was, there were a lot of contributing factors, but the biggest one for me was it was the first sort of programmer space I had been in where I really felt like I belonged. Like
Which GDC was that?
That was not the one that just ended, but GDC 2013.
Oh, cool. So
Yeah, the one in San Francisco.
Yes.
Yeah, very recently for me.
Well, that's cool. GDC is a great environment. As we're recording this, the GDC just wrapped up, and it is always a very inspiring experience. I can't leave GDC and not immediately want to go home and start working on prototypes.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah, it was amazing. I loved every minute of it, and I can't wait to go back again.
Yeah, so David here, and sometimes I feel like the odd one out. I kind of didn't mean to end up in game development, but I landed there somehow. So I went to
that makes the question all more interesting then, right?
Yeah. So how it kind of happened was I was at University of Utah studying computer science and computer engineering, and I've always been a fan of hardware, but senior year came along, and I'd been working with Brendan, who's also on the podcast, and he's like, we're doing a game development senior capstone course. I'm like, well, that sounds a lot funner than making some spreadsheet tool. So I took that course, and that's how I met Team Tripleslash, basically. And as a team, we kind of prototype games, and that was the funnest part for me, was prototyping, kind of taking an idea and see if it sticks, throw it against the wall, and see if it's fun or not, and then if it is, continue with it.
Yeah, definitely a great way to start. So all of you guys went to the University of Utah.
That's
right.
Yeah.
And how many of you are graduated already? Who's still in school?
Technically, 2 of us are in the master's program right now, but all of us have graduated.
Well,
Okay.
everyone except me.
Well, you're basically graduated.
I have one semester left.
You have like one class left.
Almost there. Almost there. You just need one more class to decide the dotted line on a piece of paper.
Fortunately, that's all to come. Just one class left.
Yeah.
All right, so why did you guys go to University of Utah specifically out of all the game development schools or schools that teach various trades?
Yeah, so University of Utah is one of the best game design schools. And as far as the Princeton Review has said, it was #1 in undergraduate last year, #2 in graduate. This year it is #2, I believe, in undergraduate, #4 in graduate. But it's always been up there in the rankings, and honestly, I just wanted, it was like close to home for me. It was right down the street, essentially.
Oh, yeah, that's,
So,
that's always good with like
yeah.
schools down the street.
Exactly. So a high ranking university, just like a few blocks away. Why not? You know.
Mm-hmm.
So.
For me, yeah, it's kind of the same thing. It was really close to me. I'm from Utah. I had always planned before actually starting the program to go to like the Guildhall, SMU, or Carnegie Mellon, or DigiPen, one of these, really high-profile schools. But then I found out that the U had this program. It's very new, actually, and it was being so well received and had like a lot of success and good reviews. So I'm like, well, let's just stay at home and help support this program. And it was awesome. It was a great program.
So I'm not from Utah. I moved here to go to the U, and I would say many of the same things that Kyle and Brendan said, but in addition to that, I also had visited Salt Lake City a few times prior, and I really liked the sort of like nerdy, geek, positive culture here, so that was another consideration for me.
Very cool.
Yeah. For me, it was just also similar to others, real close to home, and a great school. And I never thought about game development, but I always thought of computer engineering as my passion, and that kind of got sort of sidetracked. So it was a good thing.
Yeah, you get caught up, right? It's a fun industry to be. So,
Definitely.
how did you guys meet before that class, or at that class?
So two of us had met before, just in other computer science courses. Me and Brendan had worked on projects before, and we kind of landed on the same prototyping team at the beginning of the class. And it wasn't until later the rest of the team joined when the prototyping phase ended, and 3 kind of master games were chosen for the class.
So some of us, but the whole group didn't know each other. We didn't form until that project.
Right.
Did you guys, like, when you started working together, were you assigned to work with each other, or did you like meet up and choose to be on the?
It was a mix of things. We all had our vote on which game we wanted to work on, although it wasn't guaranteed. So in the final word was the professors in which groups worked on which games. So.
Yeah, some game ideas were presented by students in the class, and we all kind of voted, like Dave said, and then turns out we all liked how this game looked in its prototype phase, and so we all got assigned to it. It was pretty fortunate because I think it's one of the best functioning teams ever. Usually school teams kind of fall apart and they're not very fun, but this was lucky this time around. Everyone's great. So.
Yeah, I mean, it depends entirely on the team. You can have some really awesome teams for in school. My company started off as a school team as well, so it's definitely a good place to meet your future business partners if the dynamic works,
definitely.
right?
Yeah, especially for like after a whole year. If you can stand people for a year.
Yeah.
No, that actually does say a lot. If you guys aren't at each other's throats constantly after a year, there might be a good dynamic there.
Right.
For sure. Actually, that's something that kind of strikes me from time to time. Is we're on, I think, a little over half a year since that class ended now. So it's like we've had more than 6 months where we're choosing to continue working together without anybody forcing us to. And every once in a while, I'm like, this is crazy. Like none of us have killed each other yet.
Yeah.
So, actually, let's talk about that. Have there been any like team fights or disagreements? It might be awkward to bring up, but I'm kind of curious. Like, how perfect is that dynamic?
Programmers, it's been cake. No.
It's those artists that always.
All those artists up there.
Hey, at least we get around our situation. Like we have had some kind of like
rough patches,
I guess you can call them. But we've always cleared them up to the best of our abilities, and honestly, it's been pretty dang smooth as far as the company goes. Amazingly smooth.
From like an indie perspective, and this is something that we really wanted to pin down from the get-go, is at the beginning we were all just students. We were very equal as far as like structure, and that was okay in the class because you had sort of the professors that were in charge. But as soon as we decided to make a full-on company after we graduated and continue with this, we quickly realized that being equal and doing everything as a democracy does not work, and things just spin around in circles. So we quickly made it a real company and sort of elected CEOs and different leaders of parts of the company and had sort of a structure in place. So since we have such a large team, at any time 8 to 10 people working with us, that was really helpful in avoiding, who decides this or who's in charge of that. Being able to say, okay, you're sort of responsible to this person and whatnot has been really helpful.
So has it always been the same 8 to 10 people, or have there been people kind of like getting on early, then quitting, and some people coming on late?
So we've had 2 people who've left for different reasons, and then we have one person that has joined since we've graduated from school. One of the people who left because he actually got a job at a larger studio.
Yeah, that's a pretty good excuse.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you're allowed.
Okay. Yeah, he recently got a job at Retro Studios in Texas. So we were really excited about that. And then we had, when we did our Kickstarter, there was a musician that contacted us at that point. And he's been working well with the team, and recently we've decided to bring him on as more of like a full-time employee instead of just
Contractor, basically.
right, exactly.
So we're sitting at 9 people right now?
Yeah.
9 people.
So
Yeah, it's a pretty good sized team. Do you have is one of those people a project manager?
Kyle, basically.
As far as Magnetic by Nature goes, I oversee the project, yeah.
All right, what else do you do on the project? You're also doing the art?
Right. So I help out with the art, and since this is an indie project, even though it is a big team, we all wear a ton of hats around.
Yeah,
Very true.
You have to wear multiple hats, but
Right.
we start getting to 8 people. That starts actually warranting full-time
Right.
project
Right.
management.
Yeah.
That's an important job to
does.
deal with
Yeah.
them. I mean, do you have trouble just getting files synced up with people? Is getting everyone on source control an issue?
That's been kind of a
It's been an interesting experience.
Yeah.
We've gone through 2 or 3 different source control, just trying out what works for us. Right now we're using Mercurial, and it's been fine. We work well on Unity 3D, and we kind of have the artists collaborate with us. So that has been really helpful recently for them to be able to pull a project and look at things. So it's takes some getting used to at first, getting everyone up to speed, but we're running really smoothly right now.
So what other ones did you try before Mercurial?
I tried Git. That was pretty good. We tried. Are those the only 2, Git and Mercurial?
Yeah, those are the 2 source control things we used.
Yeah.
Although for art repositories, originally we're using Dropbox, and then that had issues.
Yeah, that did not work
Yeah,
well.
we don't.
Yeah.
We don't want to bash anything, but it didn't work for us.
The problem is that somebody deletes something and it deletes it off of everyone's
Right.
Dropbox. And
Right.
it's it has some backup control if you pay for it, but it's not really meant to be your mission critical
Yeah, absolutely.
working
Yeah, it's
files.
definitely not.
We've been slowly pulling our artists onto using Mercurial as well,
Right.
and training them on how to use it and everything.
Yeah.
And that's been really helpful.
So I'm
and by
curious,
next project, I'm sure everybody will be on that.
Yeah.
For sure.
so why Mercurial versus Git?
I like it a lot more.
It's been good. As far as merge conflicts and different things, it's been great at resolving those. And I mean, I
Did you
personally
find
like
that Git
Git almost
wasn't
as
as good?
much. Yeah.
So they're very, very similar
They're very
in my
similar.
mind. It's really, in my mind, personal preference. I've just used Mercurial for a lot longer
Yeah.
and a lot more. So
Yeah,
I'm
it's
more of
similar
a
with
Git
me.
person
I use
myself.
both.
None of us really like SVN. It's kind of not where we want to be. But
I use SVN a lot, but I mean, Git and Mercurial, they do a lot more and they handle a lot better. SVN, I think, makes more sense in the sense that it's a lot easier to set up for artists and
That's
people who
true.
just have
That's a good
solid
point.
assets.
that's good.
But there's a lot more features to get. So if you can get over that hurdle of a little bit more tricky interface and something that most artists and other people are just not trained to use whatsoever. If you can kind of get over that hurdle, it's better to get them on the more professional tools.
yeah,
Definitely.
So let's rewind a bit. Okay, you guys are in this class, you're meeting up, you're prototyping ideas. When did the Magnetic by Nature idea start forming?
Well, we had John was on our team, John Humphreys, and he was in the class with us. He originally pitched the idea to the class. Dave and I and another guy on our team, and another artist named Corey Heltener, we all voted. That was our number 1 pick. We wanted to work on that. And so the 4 of us got assigned to prototype it and and then we had to present it actually to a panel of industry professionals from local studios like EA, Disney Interactive, etc. And they liked it. It got really good feedback. So it moved to basically the next phase where then more and more people were brought onto the team. So, that was everyone we have now. So it kind of went through this process of proving itself. And then it got elected amongst 2 other games, right?
Yeah.
To be developed as a full-on Xbox indie arcade game. And that was its kind of first incarnation.
And what year was this? This was 2012?
This is, basically October 2012.
Yeah.
Okay, so end of 2012. What were you using to make the game? XNA back then, or?
Yeah, we were using XNA since that was basically a requirement of the class to publish onto the Xbox Live indie games market.
Yeah.
So we were kind of forced to. It was a good experience.
It was fun. Yeah.
But we were glad to get away from it when we did.
So why were you glad to get away from it?
It kind of just lost support. I mean, for me, I think it's just kind of a bummer. It kind of went down like a sinking ship.
It is sad. It's reached its end of life. Like, it's still useful as it is, but I wouldn't recommend new developers today start in it because it's not going to support the stuff going forward.
Yeah.
Importing
not
stuff
very
was horrible.
Yeah.
Importing animations and rigs especially was just a
It's a little
nightmare.
rough.
Yeah.
Unity makes that a lot easier.
So-
And then in libraries in general aren't like I had to dig up some discontinued, abandoned particle system library, and things are kind of hard to work with when it's not very well supported.
So how long were you working on this initial Xbox version?
9 months?
Yeah, it was about 9 months.
Development time,
Yeah.
including like pre-production and all that. So,
It's a good amount of time. So how many levels did you end up getting in the game?
let's see.
Well, we had
35?
36 levels.
36.
And we actually had like around 100. But
That
we
we
took
made.
Yeah, that we made.
100
But
were
we took the
made, but
best-
36 ended up in the
36
game.
of the best levels were in
Yeah.
the game.
Yeah, it's good to pare down like that. So
Right.
actually, I completely neglected to talk about what the game is itself. So why don't we get what's the pitch of the game? What is a Magnetic by Nature about?
So Magnetic by Nature, our tagline is it's platforming without platforms. The idea is that you're moving through a 2D side-scrolling space, but instead of spending most of your time running and jumping, you're propelling yourself from different magnets placed throughout the environment. So there's a lot of swinging and sort of rappelling off of different surfaces.
Yeah, we ease the player into that experience too. Like in the first few levels, we do the standard platforming, running and jumping, and learning how to use magnets. But by the end of the game, honestly, you're barely touching the floor at all, if at all.
Right.
And then if players get really good enough, they can essentially move through almost the whole game without touching the floor. If once their skills progress.
So you kind of have your left and right mouse button. I played it on the PC, not the Xbox. And so depending on which trigger you're playing, you're either being attracted to or propelling away from different colored magnets that are on the screen.
Correct.
So what kind of games inspired you for this? Were you playing this magnetic type mechanic before? Did you kind of always thought about it or come up with it?
So when we prototyped the game, I know me and Brendan were thinking Portal when we kind of threw the first iteration at it. And I think that comes from mostly the purely physics-based puzzles. We really enjoyed that part of Portal.
Level-based physics.
Yeah, exactly.
But
and
you
we
guys
kind of wanted
are 2D.
Yeah,
Yes,
we wanted to do like a 2D Portal with magnets.
and without portals.
Yeah.
So to my mind, the real connection with Portal is that the fundamental feature of the game is momentum.
Right.
Like it's all about mastering the way the character moves through the space, which was at least my experience of Portal.
That and also the mechanic of Portal is so simple and well defined, but they just kind of juice it and use it in so many different ways. That's something we really tried to emulate, and we've had users and playtesters give us kind of varying feedback on that. Some are saying we need more features, we want more of this and that, and others are like, no, just keep it. Like this is really clear and easy to understand. So that's something we've tried to stay true to through the process. We've actually cut tons of different mechanics from the game that we were going to put in because it sort of took away from that core experience.
Yeah, you definitely want to focus on a simpler core. That ends up making a much stronger game. It's funny because when I saw it and play it, I think of Super Mario Galaxy, and I don't know why, because it's not really like Mario Galaxy, right? But there's something about that flow as you're kind of floating over the magnets it reminds me of that flying through space. Mechanically, they're very different. Maybe it's because Mario is also a platformer, but that's something that I thought about when I played the game.
Yeah, very cool.
Is that something that you had thought about before, or am I just like way off?
I don't think any of us had really brought that one up. That's a pretty good comparison, though.
Yeah,
actually.
that's the first time I've heard that one, but I will be thinking about that next time I play Mario Galaxy. That's for sure.
I think like the two that we are compared with most are Limbo, just for aesthetic reasons, and less so now.
Stark, like almost black and white art style. You have a bit of like reds and blues.
Yeah, it's very monochromatic like that. Yeah.
Also, Super Meat Boy, I guess.
Super Meat Boy because sometimes it feels almost like a Punisher game. I mean, I think our game's significantly easier than a lot of the Punishers out there, but definitely Meat Boy because it plays pretty smoothly. The controls are simple, and it's a fairly difficult platformer. So.
And we wanted to emulate the Meat Boy elements where the levels are very short, self-contained challenges, and if you die, you respawn immediately. So you
at the very beginning.
Right.
Yeah, it's punishing, but not that much. It's only a couple seconds you're losing in each death.
Right. Well, for the first few levels.
Okay, that's true. That's true. I actually haven't played.
They get a little longer.
Too much in dev. So, you guys released on Xbox. Who was your target audience? Like, was talking about that version back then. I know you guys continually worked on it, but when you were first making it, were you thinking this is a game for hardcore gamers? This is a game accessible to everybody? What was your target audience?
So that's kind of shifted a little bit. When we did the version that was released on Xbox, we were definitely aiming at a hardcore audience. And to a certain extent, like we probably didn't put as much thought into the audience as we should have at that point in time. But yeah, we very much just wanted a really challenging, difficult, and concise play experience. And the feedback that we got was that people really liked it, but there were certain things that were too challenging. Like we had these lasers that would chase you, and we all thought, yeah, this is, this gets your blood pumping. And people were like, this fills me with anger toward the developers.
Yeah, it was like an otherwise enjoyable experience became stressful and hateful.
Yeah.
They said that with some spicier words.
Yeah.
Was it people not able to get past the lasers, or they just didn't like how long it took them?
Few of them got past.
They would get past. It was just
many
very
deaths later.
difficult. Yeah.
It was like it was almost like it was a completely different experience. Like you would be going along, flowing nicely through this game, and then all of a sudden there's this ridiculously challenging level. So it was almost as much of a problem as a difficulty curve that was just out of whack at that time.
It's kind of like a boss battle in the middle of the game.
Yeah, it felt weird.
Do you think if you had more levels that would still be the case? Like if you had 36 levels, but if you had 300 levels and some of them were super, super hard and some of them were easy, do you think people would feel better by that, or was it just simply that these levels, the mechanically from these lasers, was too hard for the experience?
I think the mechanic was misplaced. Yeah, it didn't. Our game is more about the maneuvering and utilizing the physics and solving the puzzles. That's where the challenge should come from. We didn't want it to come from
core design.
Right. We didn't want it to come from like stressful, time-sensitive things or like controls that got in the way. We really wanted to come directly from the core mechanic, not like exterior challenges like, oh, here's some guys throwing bombs at you, or just like superfluous stuff.
So when we finished the Xbox version, we kind of took a look at a lot of different features of the game and said, what works, what didn't work, and sort of refocused our attention. And part of that process is that we kind of redefined our audience, and we went for a much more like mid-core audience. Basically, we're targeting the kinds of people that like to play specifically indie games. And there were certain key features that we had in mind. Like one was we wanted the game to be really easy to pick up and play for a short amount of time and then put down again. And another is that we wanted the game to become very challenging, but to start out relatively easy so that people could gain the skills they needed rather than just being thrown into the deep end right off the bat.
So I guess some of the frustration could be attributed to the 36 levels, because it was a steep learning curve.
It was. No, that's definitely like kind of what you're trying to point out is it was a short experience, so it ramped up weirdly and kind of uncomfortably.
I mean, 36 levels is not like too few levels, right? But if the range of those levels was, too steep, right? If they were all easy, it might have felt smoother. So you finished up last year, you shipped it on Xbox. What happened then? Like, as a class, did you decide to move on from this, but you guys kept working on it? Were you assigned to then work on it again?
So we had already decided before we shipped that we were going to keep working on the game. There were a number of things that went into that, but the biggest one, I think, was our experience at GDC. The game was just so well received when people were playing it on the showroom floor. And then on top of that, just several of us had these really sort of inspiring conversations with developers there who were like, you guys have a chance to be indie. You should go. You should do it while you still can. So we were like, oh, let's give it a try.
Yeah, seriously, you guys are students. Like, just at that point, you're graduating, like, or right before you're graduating. That is the time to start a company, because it's like, what is an extra 6 months to you?
That's how we felt, right?
Right.
And then we, so the first thing we did is we launched a Kickstarter, which we actually launched right before the class ended, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was end of April, I believe.
And that was an experience in itself.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yes.
So how much did you ask for?
We asked for $10,000, and we raised just over $11,000.
Perfect. So where did you come up with the $10,000 number? What was that going to go towards?
There was a lot of discussion behind that.
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
The number one thing we needed that money for was to get licenses for Unity Pro, because we had already decided that's what we wanted to switch to. And then there were other things like we had money for...
travel expenses.
Yeah, travel
marketing.
expenses. I was going to say advertising. That's not really what I mean, but like promotion.
Right.
One thing that's been very important to us through the whole process is face-to-face interaction with players. So we try to go to as many public events where gamers or just general like geeky fans hang out and get the game into their hands. And so we needed some money to support that a little bit.
So which events did you try to go to?
We've been to a lot of small local events. The biggest one that we went to by far was Salt Lake Comic-Con. Had its first year last year, and that ended up being huge. There were like 70,000 people there.
It was 90,000.
Was it? Yeah.
90,000? That is a very big convention.
It was enormous. Yeah.
We had people playing our game at like 3 or 4 different stations at our booth nonstop, like the entire 3 days.
It was always like a large crowd of people just huddled around the booth. It was amazing.
Even after hours, some of the other vendors would come over and play.
That's excellent.
It was amazing.
Yeah, that's really great.
And so next year we want to go to PAX and
this year. Actually.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
We're trying to get to PAX Prime this year. So
yeah, you absolutely should. Have you talked about going to the Indie Mega booth at all? Have you talked to those guys?
We really want to. Basically, as soon as they start accepting submissions, we're going to apply.
All right. Well, you guys should just plan to, even if you don't get into the Mega booth, pay the little bit more. And go for your extra booth if you can afford the funds, right? Because your game's getting to that point where it's polished enough, and if you have it where it's on sale at PAX where you can immediately go and buy it, it will probably be worth the money for you guys, because you're definitely seeing a lot of polish in the game. It's looking really good.
That's the plan, is to definitely be at PAX one way or the other, and our game will definitely be released by then. So.
Yeah, as many conventions as possible, really, because like you say, at this point we can turn it into hopefully followers, gamers and people that are big fans of the game. So,
all right, let's talk technical again for a second. You wanted to switch to Unity. Why is that? I've praised Unity a bunch, but I want to hear from you guys. Like, why switch to Unity?
The other options that we looked at were like UDK, and that was right out because it seemed just too overkill for what we were doing. As far like we're not doing this big Call of Duty or first-person game. Unity was just the one that seemed to cover the most platforms for the best cost, like the best licensing structure, and it was the fastest for prototyping the game. We actually rebuilt the game from scratch and got it up and running. Let's see, we started development on this, what was it, last summer?
Yeah, so I think we got it up and running to the same point in like 3 months.
Yeah, in like 3 months as compared to XNA, which took like 9 months. I mean, obviously a lot of that
is 1/3 of the time. I mean, granted, once you've already made the game, it's faster to rebuild it. But that's still definitely significantly faster to work in a tool like Unity. Has Unity given you any trouble, like anything you wish it didn't do or missed?
It's funny you mentioned that.
Yeah, that's kind of the con section of why we chose Unity, I guess. our game is 2D, and Unity is called Unity 3D for a reason.
Yeah, because you guys were doing it before they announced the 2D features.
Yeah,
Right.
And we're not able to, go and port our game because, again, to the new version of Unity with their whole 2D system.
We're too far in, I think.
Yeah, we're too far in.
Too close
so
to
we,
release.
We had to everything in our game is 3D, all of our colliders and all of our meshes. So it's overkill for that, but and we had to hack some physics things to get it to run smoothly.
Yeah.
Did
There have
you
been
look
some
into any
bugs
of
with
those
colliding.
plugins they have in the asset store to do 2D stuff, or did you guys just dive into your own?
We're using a 2D plugin for sprite sheets and all that 2D toolkit, but we're just using Unity's physics for everything
Just
physics-wise.
constrain it to, the XY plane and try to make it. It's been pretty good overall, and the physics are really smooth and it feels nice. Since we've kind of polished it into that phase. The biggest problem is just the 2D collisions can be quirky. So trying to get those to perform how you like and have just in general good performance on something other than a PC, like some console or something, is something we've been concerned about. So overall, it's been great. There've definitely been quirks here and there, but we've been happy with it. And our next title that we decide to make will probably be on Unity 3D as well.
So speaking of platforms, which besides PC, Mac, Linux, are you also targeting mobile platforms, consoles?
So at the moment, we're not doing mobile. We actually put a lot of thought into that, and we just felt like because of the way the game works, it's not well suited to a touch interface. It's something that we still might do in the future, but it's going to take a lot of reworking.
It'd be kind of a different version of the game.
As far as the controls go.
Right.
Yeah, because you have your WASD spacebar and then 2 action buttons.
Right. And we're not a huge fan of those digital analog sticks.
Yeah.
I mean, they can work because you only have those 3 buttons.
Yeah.
Sense, jump and then a pull and attract. But with one, that would be kind of weird to have to redo.
I don't know. We've thought about like making a forced runner, just using attract and repel.
Yeah, but that's basically a different game using.
It is
right.
Yeah.
So pretty different.
So we'd really have to put some thought into it.
We definitely are looking at some mobile as far as like the Vita or 3DS, things like that, where they have buttons.
Would love to be on both
that would
of
be
those.
awesome. So we're going to look at all those different kind of platforms.
Have you guys signed up for the ID at Xbox program?
We have. We're still awaiting word, basically.
Yeah, because they haven't pulled all the names yet, so they're going down the list slowly.
Yeah.
But you will be able to port Unity to Xbox One, so in the future
That's good.
you'll definitely be able to export it. So.
Do they already support PS4 at this point? I don't remember.
Unity?
Yeah.
Not
I don't think
officially.
So hopefully they get PS4 up and all those,
Yeah, so they have a lot of support for the last gen, so you don't know if that's them. It's only been announced for Xbox One, and the good news is that at GDC it was announced that it will be free, so you won't have any additional costs to go there.
That is super awesome.
Excellent news for us, yes.
So how long have you been working on this second version of the game in total?
In total, it's probably also 9 months.
About 9 months now, yeah.
It was since now, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, time flies.
Close to that, anyway, yeah.
Well, I mean, we started in June, I believe.
Right.
So
In that 9 months, we've got a lot more done. We have, like we said before, we've built hundreds and hundreds of levels. We have about 120-ish right now that are ready for the game. Mm-hmm. So we're hoping to have 5 different zones, about 25 levels each.
Yeah, and the difficulty curve will be very much
Improved.
So you got that slower difficulty ramp. You have more levels. What else has changed about the game? You mentioned that now you're not just thinking about a hardcore gamer audience. What have you changed anything about the game and how it works from a design point of view?
Well, I think on paper the design reads exactly the same, but in terms of like the guts of the game, basically everything is different. Mm-hmm. Like all of the art assets have been remade. It's all new music, all new code. And then there's like certain elements that we had wanted in the original that never made it. Like there's other characters for the player to interact with.
There's more of a story implemented.
Right.
The core physics engine, of course, was all redone, and it plays a lot more smoothly now.
I don't think there's 1 ounce of our original game that is in this game right now. I think everything's new.
Yeah, everything's brand new except, of course, the concept. The 2 mechanics that are new are the player walls and the magnet walls. So there's these walls that you can, maybe you collide with it, but the magnet doesn't, or vice versa.
Do you still
And so
have the
that
lasers?
allows for a lot of interesting puzzles.
No, we killed the lasers.
Kill the lasers.
You didn't find a way to like put them in some way that was a lot less punishing, or you just thought no, don't overcomplicate it, just cut them.
We found a way to do similar experiences. Instead of the laser, we have maybe a wall of saw blades or something moving back and forth. But we definitely use that concept where there's something sort of oppressing you, but it's more controlled and it feels a lot less like unfair. So the level is well designed this time through, and I think it plays a lot better. It's definitely challenging. Kyle is headed up a lot of those level designs.
What, the hell levels?
Like where you have like blades moving all over the place.
Yeah, those are fun.
No, I like it. They're hard. They're near the end of the game.
Yeah, I think in the old game, the laser was really used to almost like a time limit. And
Right.
so we've kind of retooled it into being more of just like a dynamic obstacle.
Something that's kind of threatening danger, but not necessarily we didn't want there to be time constraints in any given level. A player can take their time, explore the game, and solve it how they feel comfortable solving it.
How long does a typical player take to get through the whole game now?
Anywhere from like
Varies.
That was
We
the
haven't
thing
had-
you just said mode, by the way. I'm like, oh man, how long does it take?
Well, there are so many people who have tried it, and their times just
they
are
vary
across
wildly.
Yeah.
Like,
Like I've seen people go. So recently we had 2 new players who got through. I think they played the first half of the game in about a little over an hour.
Okay.
But then I've also seen people take like hours and
3
hours
hours, yeah.
to get through it.
It really
So-
depends on like how quickly they can pick up this sort of. If they've played something like Portal, Meat Boy, and they kind of are experienced in this sort of genre, they'll pick it up quickly and learn quickly and fly through things until they get to the harder zones, hopefully. But in general, if a gamer doesn't have a ton of experience, it'll take them 2-3 times longer, so several hours. We're looking at an average of probably, I want to say 3 hours to complete the whole game on average.
Yeah.
Probably
Just
on
kind of
average.
a rough
yeah.
estimate.
3 hours minus the hell
The
levels.
hell levels are really hard, so hopefully that takes like a while.
Have you been observing people's like session length? Do they play it all in one sitting? Do they play it 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there?
We have.
Oh,
We
go ahead.
haven't. Sorry, I was gonna say we haven't really gotten some great metrics on like just giving the game to someone and letting them play it. We usually do controlled playtest sessions where we're there watching them, and then of course it's all in one sitting. So we're hoping to, now that we're at the point where we can get a full build out. We're going to be getting some of that data here really soon.
Yeah, because up until quite recently, we did not have the entire game in place. So we could only see people playing through certain portions of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like a zone at a time or something.
Yeah, it's shaping up to the point where you can actually say it's like here's the whole experience.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
do you have like a release date idea where you're going to launch in this month, next month?
So we're hoping to release within the next, was it 4 weeks now?
Yeah.
Yep.
There's a few kinks
That'll be
we still have to
sometime in
work out.
April.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
April's the big month.
And it's
Yeah.
probably the way it's probably going to work is that we're going to release on like sequentially on different platforms. So like first we'll push out this version of the game, then we'll push out that version of the game, but they'll be close to one another.
So which versions were you going to push out first?
We're actually not liable to talk about that.
We're in
this
talks
time.
with some consoles that we're going to shoot to get on. So those will probably come very first if that all works out.
Fair
And
enough
then
answer.
following that, we're actually on Steam Greenlight. So we're hoping the very next release will be PC Mac Linux. That's going very well. We're like at 85% right now after just over 2 weeks or about almost 3 weeks. So it's going very well. We're going to give it to our Kickstarter backers also. As soon as any version's available, any full version, they're going to get a copy of that because they've been with us since the beginning. So.
And they've been very patient.
Cool. So when you went on your Kickstarter, you're getting the game, you got only $10,000. I imagine all of that has dried up by now, right? I mean, it's been like a year. That's not a whole lot of money to last a development studio.
That's definitely true. We were also fortunate that same summer to compete in a local competition. The Utah Game Wars was its name, and we ended up winning best released game
And audience
and
award.
audience choice
award, yeah.
And that was actually another $10,000 award.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, that was very helpful. And
Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
Between the two and some very
but still, just
minimal Xbox sales.
for eight people, right? Like, you know, yeah, you're college students, they are just graduating and all that, but all of you guys have to be putting a lot of your own funding into this just to, you know, eat your food, right?
Pretty much all of us are doing this in conjunction with some other job, and that's paying the bills. Well, this is our true passion on the side, you know.
I mean, are you guys doing it full time, or is it the whole team doing it part time?
I would say pretty much, yeah, everyone's definitely part-time. So
If not more.
If not
Like
more.
some of us don't
like
put in a
between.
ton of hours a week, depending on our position, but I think the core of us that are working on it a lot are putting in lots and lots, as much as a full-time job every week. So we basically all have two jobs.
Yeah, I'd say and it varies with the week too, but like I feel like for sure that I'm putting in full-time hours. It's just that none of us have really gotten paid yet.
Yeah,
Right.
it's been a labor of passion up until this point. So we're hoping to, you know, with future sales, turn that around and maybe devote more time and get some people on more of a full-time capacity and see where things go.
So is your goal that as soon as the game is ready, you want to launch it, or have you given thought about holding on to it, building up some media hype, doing, you know, the whole press release cycle and releasing it on some, you know, good date kind of thing?
Well, we've definitely put a lot of thought into that, and I think there's almost like we're almost of two minds about it, because there's certain things, you know, you can always do more. You could always wait another month and get more press. You could always wait another month and have more polish. And then at the same time, there's also like, you know, we've been doing this for a year and a half. And there's a lot of work that we have slated post-launch. So like we've already committed to doing 2 downloadable expansions, at least, to the game. So we're trying to balance those pressures. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to pick the best date that we can for each platform that we launch on. But our hope is to get it out on every platform before the end of this year.
Yeah, and one thing we've seen is it's a little bit more exciting to a player when you can take it to some convention and show it to them and say, you can buy this right now, rather than this might be available in such and such months. If we were a big AAA game with tons of media power, that might hold water. You know, they might hold out for it and be excited and build some hype. But when competing with thousands of other indie games, it seems like it might be more powerful to just have the game ready. They can buy it and play it right now and enjoy it. So we're trying to find a sweet spot between those two.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like you probably are not going to be able to make PAX East because that's coming up in just a couple weeks.
That's
Right.
correct.
Yeah.
We actually specifically decided not to go to PAX East just once we crunched the numbers on how much it would cost. But we would really like to get to some East Coast events next time they happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, PAX East is a perennial thing, so that won't be hard to go the year after.
Right.
I've also heard that like releasing around the summer sales and releasing on Steam is a really good idea because there's a lot of people active on Steam every day checking the store during the summer sales. So
Sure,
if you're
that
on
makes
the
sense.
new launch charts, then there's a natural bump, even if you're not on sale.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're excited to, you know, we're really hoping we can get in one of the next couple of batches of games that get greenlit. Like I said, we're very close to that on as far as their metrics show for our progress. We are available for pre-order on the Humble widget on the Humble store. So we'd like to continue working with Humble as well. Hopefully we can get things going with them. So we have a bunch of distribution fronts that we're looking at, and so far things have been going very well. So
Cool. So besides going to these conventions, what are your other strategies for promotion?
So we've been doing a lot of different podcasts and been trying to build up kind of a Let's Play following. I think that will be easier now that we have like a complete game that we can get out to people. Other than that, one thing that we are working on, but it hasn't quite appeared yet, is we'd like to have like a series of development diary type videos up on YouTube, and then other just sort of like I don't know what to call them, but what I'd really like to do is make a series of short videos that explain certain central features of the gameplay. to potential players. So that's something we've put a lot of time into, but it's not there quite yet.
And of course, the original, just like PR pushes.
Oh,
that we
yeah,
have
totally.
to indie sites. That'll be going up real soon.
Yeah.
Cool. So why haven't you started doing the developer diaries right now? Right, you're in the middle of development. Doesn't seem like the appropriate spot.
Well, we've done a lot of recording. We just haven't gotten editing done yet. Basically, there's just so much to do. It's one thing that just hasn't happened quite yet.
We would love to have had, something going along all along and have that posted. It's just we ran out of time and hands, and we decided that, and that this may or may not be the correct choice, but we decided we needed all hands on deck to just get the game out and polish and handle all these other things. But
so like
maybe
what
the
kind
next
of
time
raw
around we'll
footage
focus
are
on
you
that.
collecting? Just like video of you guys working? Are you sitting down reality show style, going to a confession booth and knocking on each other?
Kind of a little of both. We've gotten footage of us working. We've gotten footage of kind of interview style, people talking about different facets of their experience. And then we've also gotten kind of screen captures of people working on the game as they're working. Yeah.
It might almost turn into more of a post-mortem rather than a developer blog. So.
We are also definitely planning on writing a big post-mortem.
Right.
We have learned a lot.
Yeah,
a lot of mistakes along the way.
You should
That'll be
totally
shot at the
submit
Game
that
Messenger.
to various conferences as well.
Oh, really? Like, what conferences would you suggest?
Well, GDC obviously is the top one, but there's also the GDC Next. I think it's more app focused, but you might, I would just like write something interesting as, hey, here's our students' experiences starting a company. You guys have a story that lots of people would want to share. I know PAX Dev is looking for submissions right now, especially since
great.
you want to go to PAX. It's always a great thing to plan to go to PAX Dev in the first place. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a mini GDC right before PAX. It's smaller by a lot, but it's actually really nice because it's so small and you get to know people and then you get to play board games with them at PAX immediately afterwards.
That's a great idea. Thanks for the tip. We'll check that out.
So speaking of like development diaries and all that, what would you say is the best moment you've had as a company so far? What's your highlight of your last year and a half?
Paige, yours.
It's kind of hard to choose. Like for me, I think there's two things that really, really stand out. Like when we won the Utah Game Wars, like that moment was incredible for me because there wasn't a huge number of games, but some of the other games were pretty good quality, and I really wasn't expecting that we would win. And it was like when they announced our name up on the big stage, it was like time slowed down. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then the other thing was at Comic-Con. It was just more people, I think, played our game in those 3 days than probably in the entire rest of the time of development. And being able to interact with them face to face, and especially just realizing that like an overwhelming majority of the players really loved the game. That was such an incredible, positive feeling. Oh, I haven't been wasting my life.
It's good
for
to
me,
get
it's
that
kind of the
positive
same.
feedback.
Yeah, every one of those moments where we've had really sort of validating feedback and support, the Kickstarter campaign that was successful, Greenlight's or Steam's going very well, the Game Wars victory, and then Comic-Con, all of those events, even GDC from the very beginning, where people have given great feedback, enjoyed the game, had a good time, figured out how to beat this one level, all of those moments have been the best for me. So just actually being with the people that you're kind of making the game for kind of help you in the times when, the development's kind of going rough or whatever.
That's exactly the same for me. It's those moments where they start picking up the game and maybe they're kind of like, bored and tired from walking around at a convention. But then they pick up the controller, start playing the game, and their eyes just light up. That's honestly, there's nothing better than that. So,
Yeah.
Right. So what's the other side of this coin? What is the worst moment you guys had as a company?
Dave, why don't you start us off?
Now you got the laundry list of things.
One time we ran out of cookies.
No, seriously, right? There's a lot of probably like bad moments, a lot of tough, challenging general times. But was there anything particularly challenging or a moment where you really weren't sure, what you were going to do to solve a problem?
So I don't remember the specifics around this moment, but I do remember how I felt. I know it was right before our Xbox release, And I think it was like the third day in a row that everyone had stayed at school like all night, overnight. And I just remember this moment because Paige took a picture of it, and like you can see my face, and it's just completely
Melting.
no life. I'm like, I look dead. And it was just that moment, like pure, like I've spent so many hours on this in the past 3 days, and
What we were trying to do
purely
was get it
exhausted
to
and-
run on the Xbox, right?
yeah, we were
'Cause it
just
was
trying to
not
solve
running,
like frame rate issues on the
Yeah.
Xbox, and it
Yeah.
was just, it's got to be done. So
Was it
There's
just
no
a
alternative.
crunch mode at that part? Like
Very
too many
crunch mode,
Too
yeah.
many
Yeah.
sleepless nights.
yes.
The crunch modes are rough. They're fun to look back on and stuff, and it's kind of part of the experience.
I
But
mean,
yeah,
are
it can
they
be
fun to look back on? It's a good point. Like, have you changed
we
the
get-
way you work to try and reduce crunch?
We get team bonding. So, that's always fun.
We always go out. We always go out and eat food
Yeah,
and greasy food.
like we do a lot of stuff with the team that to keep the morale high. Like Paige has taken the team on like a few hikes. On the weekends we always go out and get food. Always hang and try to do other stuff non-game related.
Or
with the
discuss
team.
just gaming in general, like not
Yeah.
our game, but just kind of what games we're playing, what things we like about whatever's going on in the industry, things like that.
Dave
So-
baked us all some bread last
Dave
week.
baked
That was
bread.
awesome.
So I mean, like morale is always something we try to keep in check and make sure that everybody's at least having a good time on the team and being at maximum efficiency.
Yeah, well, no
Yeah.
wonder you guys have been able to work together for so long, because that's really
Yeah.
good strategies to kind of like not build up that tension, that just stress from the work. You have to be able to relieve that, be able to, be friends with your coworkers and your teammates beyond working on the game.
Right.
Yeah, we forced ourselves to not work on the game together.
I'll throw in real fast for me. The Kickstarter was incredibly stressful.
I would say the same.
Yeah. Kyle and I both I don't even remember.
That was hard.
But yeah, we did not sleep very much for a month.
Yeah,
that just happened to
I heard that they're, like,
coincide.
death marches where every day you're
Yeah.
just like promoting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're very difficult. They're not easy to pull off.
No, definitely not. They're even harder now. Actually, that there's more people on there.
Yeah, I'm sure it's getting harder all the time.
All right. So, what if I told you that I had a time machine, and before you ask, it only goes back to 2012 when you guys just formed a team and you're just working on that first prototype, and you can only have 30 seconds. What do you tell yourselves?
Oh my
You're
gosh,
crazy.
that's a good question.
Wow.
Honestly, I would tell myself that's an easy question. I would tell myself it's all worth it.
Yeah.
Totally.
Don't give up. That Kyle hit it. That's good. Like if I could say you guys are going to be here, almost greenlit on Steam, cross our fingers, knock on wood, having
Don't jinx us.
all this success up till now. Like if I could just give myself a snapshot of where we are now, that would be helpful because I think it would give me even more motivation and all that. So
I would probably also want to say Brendan's idea for the controls sounds crazy, but he's right. Do it.
that could have saved us some time. We at one point we restructured our entire control scheme and honestly like the core mechanic of the game. So
Tell me about that. Like, what was it before? What it changed to?
well, like originally we had a dual control stick design, and instead of having sort of an aura of magnetism around you, it was a directional thing. Like you would point a stick at the magnet you wanted to interact with, and almost just utilize that one magnet. And so you had to control yourself with one stick and the magnet beam with the other stick. And for me, that was stressful because from the get-go, I didn't want the controls to be a barrier to the fun and the enjoyment. And I hate dual control stick games with a passion because it's just like, it doesn't work for me. So it was almost a personal vendetta against that. And I went and I just crashed my head against a bunch of different ideas of how to get a similar experience out of the game, a similar mechanic, but with one control stick. And I just thought, of some other benefits from this new scheme, like we can interact with all these magnets at once. And so I just threw around a ton of ideas and prototyped them myself. I think that's the way you have to do things a lot of the time is show, don't tell. If you want to try something out, try it. Don't try to explain it because at first glance, it, like Paige said, sounds insane.
Yeah,
So I prototyped it and we played it. And,
Yeah,
So
you just have to try the feel and say, hey, this works on paper, but it didn't feel right. This other thing that
Right.
may not sound as cool on paper feels 10 times better, and you won't know that until you get a chance to
Exactly.
mess around with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was the deciding factor because I remember every single person on the team except Brendan was like, "No, that sucks. It's terrible," but they never actually tried it.
Yeah, like
And
everyone.
once everyone had gone through and played with it,
Yeah.
they're like, "Yeah, okay, it's better."
Good job, Brendan.
You win.
All right. Thank you for me. No, I was kidding.
Right,
No,
good
that was
stuff.
fun.
Good stuff. All right, so you mentioned it before. You guys talk about games you've been playing lately, not just the ones you've been making. So, what games have been interesting you as you were developing? What have you been playing?
Super easy for me again. Super Meat Boy. That was like, well, I guess like the team criticizes me for making extremely hard levels, and I think that's like
There's
one
always someone on the team that does that.
well, one because like during our original release, it was I was just playing a ton of Super Meat Boy, and then during this release, I'm playing a ton
With Dark Souls.
of Dark Souls 2.
Oh man,
Kyle likes
don't let
difficult
Dark
games.
Souls 2
He's
difficulty leak into your game.
Yeah, so it's just like after you get done with those games, it's like, oh, players, they know how to do this stuff. This is super
Players will do
simple for them.
anything.
Yeah, so.
For me, I've been trying to focus on just really solid gameplay choices and anything from the menus in the game to how things are displayed, like how to use the controls, how buttons work to do this and that. So at the get-go, I played a lot of Portal 1 and 2, and then, of course, Meat Boy, some Limbo. Been playing just anything that's been making waves in the indie sort of community, and as well as some PS3 games, some AAA stuff, like been playing, well, I guess this is sort of indie and AAA, but like Journey and stuff, just stuff that's very sort of minimalistic, kind of like our game, and see what works for them, what doesn't work. So just a lot of those type of game.
So I was recently playing, it's kind of older now, but Pure Solar, indie game that came out on the, actually on cartridge for the Genesis and Mega Drive a couple years ago. And that, even though it's a totally different kind of game from what we're making, it's very inspiring to me just because it was this, independent group that without any budget put together this major game for a closed platform that's been dead for years and, hired manufacturing to build a cartridge. So it's just kind of like, wow, if they can do this, then yeah, we can really start a little game. And then more recently, I have been, Civilization has consumed an incredible number of my hours.
Which version of Civilization?
So I just got Civ 4, so I'm behind the times. But that's okay because I hadn't played it yet, so it's still new to me.
It ages well, actually, because
It does.
graphics don't matter in that game. It's just the system. So you can kind of go back to, even like Civ 2 is still a lot of fun for me to play every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't actually pulled out Civ 2 in a while, but that used to be a thing of mine.
Dave's been playing Farm Simulator.
So I am a weird gamer. I don't like platformers, which is also weird because I'm making one.
That's actually not that weird, right? Like,
Yeah, I guess so.
If you're thinking yourself as like hardcore gamers like platformers, that's a very small set of the gaming community that has exploded recently. And it's not just like, oh, there's those casual gamers and then real gamers who like platformers. There's just a wider variety of types of games now. And we're finally getting to a point where we aren't just labeling anything that isn't a first-person shooter or a platformer as a casual game. We're starting to actually respect the medium of games as it grows.
Yeah, but I play a lot of sandbox and simulation games. So recently I picked up Banished. It's a medieval city building simulation game.
On
That's
Steam,
been a lot
right?
of fun, yeah.
So.
And also Space Engineers, kind of a Minecraft in space. So yeah, that's my
I think we have a
cup of
good
tea.
mix represented. We have people that on our team that love platformers. We have people that love adventure games, shooters, and just a wide
RPGs,
variety. So
whatever, yeah.
we have like a wealth of knowledge to pull from different, like ask so and so. So what do they do in this situation? And I think we almost always come up with a good answer.
Yeah, that's true. That's been to our benefit.
Not only genres, but like casual and hardcore mix too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you learn so much in development. You can solve problems by like, hey, this game did this, I know that, and being inspired. And people talk about like, oh, I want to be pure, and oh, I came up in this completely on my own. Otherwise, it's stealing. And no, you got to steal ideas. Right? Steal good ideas. Be inspired by other projects around you. AAA, indie, you got to do both.
I think that's like one of the best things about our industry is that when we play games, we're not just playing games, we're doing it for research.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And you guys have your own company now, so you know that every game you buy is a tax write-off, right?
That's right.
Yeah, seriously. I don't know if you guys started dealing with taxes yet, but that'll save you some money.
We've been building our little Tripleslash library, so it's growing for sure.
For me, I've been playing Bravely Default mostly because I was going to GDC and I took the train every day because I live in the South Bay, and so it was something nice and portable on my 3DS to dive into.
Cool.
And some coworkers have been bugging me to play more. I'm not much into the Final Fantasy Square Enix JRPG genre, but I really liked it because it did stuff different. It has a lot of social features that I've never seen in a JRPG before. I believe are unique to it, with the ability link that I can level up one class, you can level up another class, and then we can link up our characters to each other that we get benefits from both. So it doesn't just become, what loadout I'm leveling up, but I'm, telling Kenny, my coworker, what class he should level up, and we can send different abilities to each other and help rebuild each other's towns. So
that's really cool.
Those social features mixed into JRPG end up being really nice, and you can do simple things like control the random battle percentage from 0 to 200%. So when you need to grind, you just set it to 200% and you go. And when you want to just get out of that dungeon and you don't want to have to be annoyed by 10,000 random battles, you can just set it to 0% and get out of there. So some pretty nice decisions. Cool. Yeah. I don't think I'll finish it because it's like a 100-hour plus game, but I logged, I think 10 hours or so at this point. So I get a good feel of it at least.
Yeah, it is nice. I think any game that over 10 hours of gameplay is a game worth buying.
Right.
Honestly, I don't know. That's just me.
I used to feel that way. Now I kind of feel like any game more than 10 hours, I'm probably not going to finish.
That's true.
But then there's just 4 sitting there. So.
Yeah, it only took me 4 hours or less to beat Limbo, but that's one of the best games I've played in recent memory. So
yeah, it's just as you grow up, you're like, oh man, I can't sink so many hours. And honestly, those 100-hour games, you do get the feel for them after a while. And so if there was something in Bravely Default that is amazing and different, but it doesn't appear till hour 50,
right,
that's a problem with that game. That's something that should be addressed. If it's fun, it should be earlier in the game. Even if the game itself you can play for 300 plus hours, right? People play Flappy Bird for 100 plus hours.
Right.
It's a 30-second game, right?
Right.
It's okay to be a smaller experience that you can repeat or enjoy. It doesn't have to be filled out.
For sure.
An old console mentality. Anyway, if you want to find more about me for the show, you can go to tobiahmarks.com. That's my blog where I have information, blog posts, cool stuff like that. Or check out the show at beindynow.com where you can find past shows, show notes, cool stuff like that. You can follow me on Twitter at Tobiah Marks or follow the show at beindynow. Where can we find out more about Magnetic by Nature?
So we're on Twitter as @Team Tripleslash. We're also on Facebook as Team Tripleslash, and the game itself has a Facebook page with Magnetic by Nature. You can also go to our site, magneticbynature.com.
And just recently, Steam Greenlight. So please go vote for us on Steam.
We'll give you e-hugs.
E-hugs all the way.
And then a lot of the team is also on Twitter under their individuals. So if you...
Yeah, go ahead and plug your handles.
Okay, well, I am @P_Ashlyn, ASHLYNN.
I'm at Sideshow Dave 7.
I'm at Kaichi, same as KY_CHI.
Brendan doesn't have a Twitter.
I don't tweet.
He lives in the past.
You don't follow that Twitter feed. All right, fair enough. Well, thank you guys very, very much for talking with me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
For everyone else out there, go out there and make some games.